get everybody your bio so they know where we're coming from here. But my special guest this evening is Salini Teri Apodaca. And she was raised in California, where she was trained and initiated by several master spiritual teachers, including Reiki Grandmaster Hawayo Takata, Holy Mother Ammachi, Yogi Haeckel, and her mother, Eulalia Mae.
Yogi Haeckel.
What is that?
Yogi Haeckel.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, because, yeah. All right. And Eulalia Mae, is that right?
No, her name is Eulalia Mae.
Oh, my gosh.
That's my mom.
On that one, too. All right. Well, thank you. And she is also a holistic practitioner and addictions counselor, a bodyworker of multiple modalities, an alchemist, and a shaman. She trains and initiates students in Reiki, shamanism, and soul transformation. Her work includes chronic illness, trauma recovery, sexual abuse recovery, mental and emotional illness, addiction recovery, chronic pain, shamanic healing, spiritual awakening, and other conditions brought to her. Salini works at the level of the soul issues and addresses all aspects of body, mind, and spirit when working with clients. Salini also trains people in the healing of the split of duality within the human mind to bring individuals, collectives, and cultures to wholeness. In addition, Salini is a survivor of the MKUltra trauma-based mind control sex slavery program. She deprogrammed herself and created a program for healing trauma, mind control, and addictions, and restoring the fractured spirit of humanity. Her dual initiation into light and dark served as the matrix of duality in human consciousness. She outlines her healing program in her groundbreaking book, Emerging from the Matrix, and that's Healing Human Trauma and Ending Global Enslavement. That's available on Amazon.com. Salini is available to teach, heal, or awaken anyone interested in the path of spiritual awakening through energy work, soul alchemy, deep personal healing, and divine mother love globally. She is the divine body electrician and can rewire and restore your body's energy grid in preparation for ascension. She's also available for individual sessions in the USA or via Skype and can work on people long distance globally. Salini is the host of the new TV show Beyond the Matrix with Salini and co-host of Heal Yourself Now, and that's at www.naturallybetter.tv. She's a published author, columnist, and screenwriter. Teacher, spiritual retreat leader, motivational speaker, and spiritual visionary. Salini also has a radio show on www.intentionradio.com, also called Emerging from the Matrix, where she speaks truth to the awakening masses and teaches people to self-heal. Also, her wonderful website is www.emergingfromthematrix.com. And please welcome Salini to the show. Finally welcome you to the show.
Oh, thank you. Hello, aloha, namaste, everybody.
So nice to have you on board with us. And I know since we're crunched for time, I'm going to let you roll with whatever you feel guided to talk about tonight.
Well, there's so much to talk about, Solaris. You and I talked briefly about some topics that really need to be addressed. And I think that probably the most important thing on the table is the arrival of the divine mother energy to the planet. And, I'm a representative of that. Many people are, a lot of us are moving that energy into the planet. And we're going to see that come in very strongly from this point on. This has a lot to do with what's happening in the news right now with the sexual abuse revelations and all of that. It's the females finally. The barriers are removed to them speaking their truth. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And we were touching on that before we went live about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to talk about this stuff 20, 30 years ago. Nobody was interested. I try to go to the police, try to, have programs talking about it. I might as well have been, talking to a brick wall. Suddenly everybody wants to hear about it. That's because the shift has taken place in the planetary alignments and in the energetic alignment of the planet at this time, where the space is being made for the descent of the Divine Mother to Earth. And what I mean by that is there is actually the dark matter of the universe, which is primarily yin, is descending, or we are ascending into it, and is going to bathe the earth in divine feminine energy. And as that happens, there can only be a removal of things that block us from divine feminine energy, which is pure love, So all the things that are lies, all the things that are barriers, all the things that are blockages and obstacles are going to be resolved. And as that happens, there's going to be revelations, there's going to be people freaking out and people speaking their truth and people getting arrested. It's not all women against men. It's men's divine feminine as well. You know, we live in a very masculine patriarchal culture, and that's going to start moving into a more balanced culture where males and females both have their divine feminine up. So when that happens, women are be allowed to be more empowered, and men will be more peaceful and supportive and all the things that they haven't been for the last 12,000 years. By the way, this is a 12,000-year cycle of negative patriarchal male energy. And it probably comes around every couple 100,000 years or so. I don't know exactly how that goes down, but we've had 12,000 years of pure male control of the planet. And it's brought us to the point where the planet is, you know, nearly becoming extinct because of the destruction to Mother Earth. And Mother Earth is a feminine energy. And when you have male energy ruling and too much of it, it becomes too yang. What happens is a destruction of the resources of Mother Earth. That needs to stop. I'm sure you agree, don't you?
Oh, right. Yeah, definitely off balance. There's no doubt about it. And I have noticed, you know, prior, even with some of the stuff that was going on with the Middle East, there was a war on the divine feminine for sure. Even the hijacking of the goddess's name and things like that. And I know we've touched on that before in the past, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, this is ridiculous. Isis is the ultimate divine sacred feminine goddess. ISIS is not a terrorist group. And wouldn't you know, they'd put that there. That's what they did when they, number 13, which is the number of the sacred feminine, and they turned it into a bad number, and the Friday the 13th and all this. And it's really important for people to understand that all the things that were divine and sacred under the divine feminine energy were turned into something dark by the patriarchs. And that was their way of usurping the power of the Divine Mother and taking it for themselves. And, you know, it's being done that way, many different ways. And it's, you know, through the sacred literature, they changed the sacred literature, they wrote the women out, they wrote out Mary Magdalene, all that kind of stuff, to make it so that everything was by men and everything was created by men. And that just isn't the way it is. And of course, you know, today's men are much more enlightened. And we see the younger men are much more enlightened. So I have a lot of hope for the future. I think we're going to see a change that's so beautiful, it's going to shock everybody. I really do.
Yeah, I'd like to run the energy for that one, because you see an awful lot of conflict right now, and people are polarizing, whether it's belief systems or sexuality or, you know, politics is a real big one. So a lot of stuff going on.
There's a tremendous amount going on, and one of the things I wanted to mention is that Black Moon Lilith has moved into Capricorn, and it was in Sagittarius for 9 months, and a combination of Black Moon Lilith in Capricorn, Jupiter in Scorpio, and Venus in Scorpio is all about the truth surfacing. Capricorn is about the law. And it's like a father energy, a male energy. And Black Moon Lilith is the angry, denied female energy. When Black Moon Lilith came up a couple of years back, it was the beginning of the females rising. And it's going to sweep through every area of life, you know, education, law, politics, entertainment, religion, communities, homes, families, all the places where there's been the suppression of the divine feminine. And with Black Moon Lilith going into Capricorn, you're going to see the institutions start falling. You're going to see people getting arrested. You're going to see people being called on the carpet for things that they've violated. You know, people they violated, laws they violated, things they've stolen, lies they've told. You know, we've already seen some of this begin. It's going to get a lot more intense over the course of 2018. And this is a good thing. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not against men. It's about breaking down an old structure that doesn't work, and its time has passed. It's time for it to go.
Yeah, and also time to heal all the trauma associated with a lot of the activity.
Exactly. That's the next thing, is the healing of the trauma, which is why it's so beautiful to see the sexual abuse issues coming up, because basically all we've had is just the silence and the denial, and women and men walking around carrying their pain with no opportunity to heal. and just being told to, suck it up, pull your bootstraps up, all these phrases that have nothing to do with reality and nothing to do with true healing, but just telling people to suppress everything, which causes illness, causes breakdowns, causes addiction, causes all kinds of problems in our culture, because when you're holding in years of trauma, it ends up being a disease or an addiction or even violence towards women. It could be violence towards women. And so what happens when that lid is lifted off and everybody's allowed to speak is the dialogue begins, the energy is released, it begins to dissipate, it begins to heal. People start talking, why did this happen? What do you have to say about it? I mean, to me, one of the best things that just happened was the comedian Louis C.K. came forward and admitted, he was charged with masturbating in front of 6 women he didn't know. And he came forward and admitted it and said, yes, I did it. And I thought it was okay to do it because I asked them ahead of time and then just dropped my drawers. And he said, I don't know why I did things like that, but I'm wrong and I accept responsibility for it and I'm going into treatment. And he apologized to all the women. I mean, that's how it starts, Solaris, It's like forgiveness is available.
Right.
But if you pretend forever that you never did it, and you try to, like in the case of Harvey Weinstein, he hired ex-Mossad agents to track, harass, intimidate, and silence the women that he had raped. So I don't know if you've seen that story in the New York Times, but Ronan Farrow has exposed him, as not only a predator, but a person who's willing to intimidate and threaten the women that he raped. It's like after raping them, he went and did that. It's not somebody that's going to be healing anytime soon.
Whereas Louis C.K.
Oh, I mean, it's not only psychological, it's life-threatening, it's terror. That's how they create terror, in people. It's targeting, and I've been a victim of targeting, so I know how terrifying it is to be followed by your rapist, as I was. And that's why I celebrate, and I want to congratulate Louis C.K. tonight for being one of the few men to come forward and just 100% own it and say, I did it, I'm sorry, what do you want me to do? I'm going into treatment. It's over for him. Forgiveness is available immediately. And if all the men would be willing to do that, and women, if there are women who are abusers, if they would be willing to do that and just stand before a person that they assaulted and make their amends, this is going to happen real fast. The healing is going to happen very, very fast.
I agree. Totally agree with that. Yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot has been moving and opening up and probably for the highest good at the, in the end of ends and the illusion of. So it's very interesting stuff right there. And I know that you've come through so many corridors of being through these projects of abuse and MK Ultra, like you were talking about. So, it's phenomenal where you've been and how you've recovered from that. And also the fact that you're helping other people. So I do want to applaud you for that. And I know that you probably have some workshops lined up, right?
Yes, I am. I'm back in the USA. I'm happy to say, back in the USA, USSR, USA. My home country, I'm in my home state, and even I'm in my hometown. I'm in California, currently in San Jose, teaching classes and giving treatments, but I'm available on Skype, and I'm all about healing. I'm not about getting people in trouble or continuing revenge or anything like that. No, the healing that's taken place is massive for me, and I'm really grateful. I have so much love and respect for all the people of this planet who are struggling through this monumental moment in history where we're emerging from the darkness into the light, Solaris. And as we do that, we have to look at our collective shadow. And a lot of us, those of you who understand reincarnation know that there were other lifetimes where we were probably the abusers, and this lifetime we may be the victim. And so, really doesn't serve anybody to stand in a position of judgment over another person. What's really important is that we work towards a global collective shadow healing where we can really own the things that have occurred on this planet as a whole and begin the process of deep internal shadow work. So So I'm going to be teaching some classes about shadow work. And it's in my book. Have you had a chance to look through my book yet, Solaris?
I love your book. Yes, I did. Very good stuff.
Okay. Well, did you look at the back of the book where the 22 steps of soul transformation?
I did. I checked that book out a long time ago. So I forgot something.
Well, one of the...
Go ahead.
That's okay. I don't expect you to recite everything. I just wondered if you knew what I was talking about with the shadow work.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, totally. The shadow self as well. Yeah, I call it the shadow self, but yeah, absolutely. It's very important that we look onto those and at those aspects of who we are, and you know, just kind of I always say shadowing your behavior, but also looking in the corridors of the conscious and the subconscious mind. Yeah, and watch your programming, because I think some people have programs that run subconsciously and they're not even aware of it.
Absolutely, we all do. I mean, I was an extreme example of that in that, you know, for those of us who've gone through child abuse, we very frequently don't remember until we're older that we were abused, if it's a very early time in your life. But in my case, it was even more severe, as I went through the MK Ultra program, where they intentionally wipe your memories. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I think it's really important for your audience to hear that what healed me was Reiki. I had the great good fortune of being a protege of Reiki Grandmaster Hawayo Takata from childhood on. So she was my mentor for like 21 years, and it started when I was about 9 years old. And prior to that, my mother was my mentor, where she taught me to go heal the plants and the animals and everything. I started that as soon as I could walk around. You know, I was working on the turtles and the cats and dogs and the flowers and everything in the yard as a little girl, 4 or 5 years old. And then in comes Mrs. Takata, and I got this massive influx of divine energy that came straight from that really powerful lineage of Dr. Yusui, Dr. Hayashi, and Mrs. Takata. Mm-hmm. And so I am one of her final students. And she gave me Reiki treatments for like 12 straight years. And I got lots of them because every year she came and stayed at our house. So I received master Reiki treatments over and over and over from the Grandmaster herself. And I believe that that mental healing is what really triggered the transformation for me. Mm-hmm. And by the time I was 18, I was practicing Reiki on other people. And then eventually I made it my life's work, and I became a Reiki master. But it wasn't until I became a Reiki master that I was strong enough to remember the MK Ultra, because it was so severe. Mm-hmm. As you know, these programs are violent and difficult and painful and deep. And I had to get enough divine chi going where I could really overcome that the way they had programmed the energy in my body and in my mind. I had to have enough chi through Reiki to be able to overcome what they had done. Mm-hmm. And so that is a process of sacred alchemy that I teach people in my classes, Solaris.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I'm a firm believer in Reiki too. It's a very powerful formula. There's no doubt about it. It's all about prana and healing, as you were touching on. Without universal life force energy, we don't have a suit. We don't have a star body. It's just we're all composed of those energies. So yeah, very, very significant. And of course, now when you do a session on somebody, you do the regression or no, or you just work on them on a multidimensional scale?
I work on them holistically: mind, body, spirit, emotions. You can't work on this is what's wrong with the allopathic system. All they're doing is working on the flesh, skin, body. Mm-hmm. And they're not thinking about, why is this soul going through this, I mean, there's no reason for me to have gotten viral meningitis. I got viral meningitis, but that was because I was having my memories of being, traumatized and abused. It wasn't because I caught it from anybody or I did anything wrong. I didn't smoke or drink or use drugs or anything. There was no reason at all. But it's because I was transforming from within. And one of the things that a true alchemical change has to have, Solaris, in order to really take, is sacred alchemy requires a container, a substance to be transformed, and a high temperature. So just imagine a butterfly. Here's a very slow caterpillar just slowly making its way into the cocoon and building a cocoon around itself. What's going on inside of that cocoon? Well, they have a trigger, a natural trigger inside themselves to begin the process of alchemy once they are contained inside of the cocoon. So they go through an alchemical change that when the cocoon falls away, it's like, voila, here's a butterfly. Couldn't be more different. But that's because the juices and the body parts inside of the caterpillar heated up and transformed. Right. And so, I firmly believe that the viral meningitis that I had with the very high fever for 3 weeks, which normally could have killed someone, was the moment at which I changed alchemically. And I actually had a near-death experience. I left my body and returned, and I had a vision of how to heal people during that entire experience. So when I'm working with people, I let them know they're going to go through a change. It isn't necessarily going to be as severe as mine, but if you want to wake up, you have to be willing to transform. You have to be willing to go through looking at your shadow. And your shadow could be anything, It could just be bad habits, or it could be something unconscious, like you said before, like maybe something that you did or happened to you when you were small and you don't remember, or it could even be from another lifetime. But you just have to be willing to go through the full transformation if you really want to wake up and claim your divine power.
Well said. That's very true. Yeah, I really encourage anybody to get a session with you too. I think that would benefit them 100%. I really think that's what we need right now is healing on so many different levels as a group collective and as individuals.
We do. And I'm in the process of designing some new courses at the moment. I'm going to be doing a lot of trauma recovery work, a lot of addiction recovery work, a lot of soul regression, soul healing, and what I call a soul transformation. And it's going to be holistic, and it's going to encompass all of it, and it's going to include Reiki. And you can start, if you're interested in that, by reading my book, Emerging from the Matrix, Healing Human Trauma and Ending Global Enslavement, which is available on Amazon.com. You can also go to my website, emergingfromthematrix.com, and you can check into some of the treatments that I do there and order a treatment online. You can also call me on Skype, and we can do a Skype session at Teri.Apodaca. But overall, I'm going to be, one thing I wanted to announce at Solaris is I'm going to start giving free lectures. I want to do as much that's affordable for people as possible. Like everybody else, I have to pay my rent, but I'm going to start giving free satsangs on Sundays. And it's going to be, I'm going to call it Satsang with Salini. And the goal is to give people guidance and truth and healing in the form of a satsang. And that satsang means truth and healing. It's a common tradition amongst Hindu gurus to have satsang where they assist people with their transformation. And so, it's just a talk, and it's free, and I'm going to start on Facebook Live.
Oh, nice. And
then maybe we'll tape some and then put them up on my YouTube channel. I'm also restarting and relaunching my TV show. I have had a TV show, Heal Yourself Now, which, I went on a lengthy tour around the world, and my computer died out, so I couldn't do any shows for a while. But now that I'm back, I'm going to be relaunching Heal Yourself Now and a second program, which I'm going to call Beyond the Matrix and on into the Divine Feminine. And so we're going to be talking about the issues of the coming paradigm. And that it's going to include healing, it's going to include awakening, it's going to include receiving the Divine Feminine. We're about to experience the descent of the Divine Feminine to this planet. It's going to be amazing. And, it might be a little bit scary for people because things that they're accustomed to in the way of patriarchal structures are going to fall away. I don't know exactly what those are going to be, but it could even be the financial system. It could be the school system. I know it's just going to be a lot of shifting and changing going on. And people need to really get down into their soul and connect with their whatever their form of spiritual worship is, and to do whatever it is that their mission is, their soul purpose. Get busy with it, because it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable to live in a world that isn't like it used to be, where you can't just get a job, go to school, buy a house. I mean, I think we all see that's changing.
Oh, yeah.
And we have to really, what were you born to do? What is your soul path? And that's going to be I'm going to be writing a couple more books discussing that very issue. What is your soul path? How do you get there? And how do you use your divine feminine energy to get there? Mm-hmm. Because up till now, it's just yang energy where we're supposed to push, work, make money. Well, what about your intuitive energy, your natural feminine wisdom, your magnetic energy to magnetize things to you? How do you utilize these things, How do you integrate the male and the female energy within yourself? These are the things that we have to learn how to do differently. You know what I mean?
Right. No, that's very well said. I agree with that 100%. Yeah, we're looking forward to these sequel books. I hope you write them very soon. It's going to be very, very good read and well needed.
I've been so busy, but the first book is really long for those of you who've seen it. It's a big fat book, and it's sort of the master book. I've got a lot of stuff jammed in there, and you can read it over time. But I'm going to make a series of shorter books that are going to be teaching manuals and information manuals that are going to be faster, quicker, easier for people to read. I just needed to get to that point where I could sit down and write again.
Mm-hmm. Right. It seems like, since last I talked to you, you seem a lot more charged and a lot more empowered since you've been back. So that's good.
Really?
Yes. Your energy. I mean,
when did we talk?
Last time. I think you were in Australia.
Pardon?
I think you were in Australia the last time we chatted.
No, I've been gone from Australia now for quite a while. I think I was in Bali.
Well, that's
did we talk early?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think we've talked since I got back to the United States, have we?
Not at all. No. But you sound great.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I had quite a tumultuous journey through Asia and Australia over the last 2 years, but it was wonderful, and it was empowering and awakening, and I learned a lot. And Bali is amazing. Oh my gosh, what an amazing country. It's all divine goddess energy, really strong, very, very strong, very mystical, very powerful. It was quite a gift from the universe to be able to go there.
Very nice.
So when I brought back from there, it's just more understanding of my soul purpose. And I was guided, I was told, by mystics there that it was time to return to the United States and bring the teachings to the people here because they really need it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they do. Yep. And you're right there in the midst of everything. How did the energy feel going back to California?
Well, that was hard at first. It actually was a culture shock because I loved Bali. I could see living in Bali forever. And I didn't really want to leave, but I could feel that it was time to return. I'd been gone here almost 2 years from the United States. And I felt the call to come back, and I felt that there was going to be a great shakeup and a great need for healing here in the USA. And so there were teachers needed that were not traditional. And of course, there are others like me out there. We're all starting to really step forward. And so coming back, I kind of felt just the way you have to, have offices and make a living and everything is completely different, because in Bali, the shamans are the most important people. And they're highly regarded, and people come to their homes, and they're sometimes given a home, and they're sometimes, fed and taken care of by the village because they're so powerful and so important. But here you have to fight and struggle to get a place, it's difficult. You have to go through all the Western ways of doing things. But even with that, I see the universe aligning everything for all of us. I can see the magic here now. The magic that has been suppressed in the United States is returning. It's returning. We're going to have magic again, and it's going to return with the divine feminine.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree with that. Yep, totally.
And by magic, I don't mean anything like black magic, or I'm talking about the magic of the power that's been missing from this country. The power has been co-opted by the male patriarchal system, the Masons and the Illuminati and the Congress and all those structures. They've taken away the feminine power from our nation. It's about to be returned.
Mm-hmm. We certainly need that. There's no doubt about it. And even some females need to kind of reset too, I would say. Even though there's been a lot of male dominance, there's a lot of toxicity with some of the females. So that has to happen. Where
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not just a male phenomenon. This is a human phenomenon. I mean, without naming names, I'm sure we've seen women that rise to power that end up taking on male characteristics and become power hungry and aggressive. And, that's not the way to establish your power. Maybe in a male structure it is, but not in harmony with the universe.
Right.
There has to be a balance between the male and the female energies for something to be healthy, healing, and empowered for others.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
So we're going to see a reset for the women, definitely. But first you're going to see the women, they're angry, and they're going to tell their stories. They're going to talk about the abuse. That has to happen, and everybody has to get it off their chest. And then you're going to see you're going to see their power rise up. Once they're able to do that and put it behind them, you're going to see that power come up, and it's going to flower like a beautiful lotus flower to the surface of this country. And there's going to be creativity everywhere. There's going to be love everywhere. There's going to be wisdom everywhere. It's going to be beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I think it's here now. It's just getting through this maelstrom right now. So what do you think is the best method for uniting the people beyond their personal differences? I know everybody needs to heal. Everybody's carrying some kind of a programming. What do you see for a solution for uniting the people?
Well, first of all, we have to reinstate a spirituality within ourselves individually. Mm-hmm. And, each person has their own belief system, and it's not about trying to talk people into any one particular religion. But if you don't have a connection to the divine, you're kind of walking blind. You're just walking from the earth perspective, and you're really shut off to the power of the universe itself. There's all kinds of assistance available to us in the other realms. The angels, the divine masters are present and available to us. And the universe itself is made up of powerful divine energy. And if you don't access that in meditation or prayer or some other spiritual practice, then you're kind of limping along, kind of like on crutches. Because the energy fields of Earth, I mean, we can do a whole show on this. I'm trying to go kind of fast tonight because we got started so late. Mm-hmm. But the energy field of the Earth, of Mother Earth, has been co-opted by the Illuminati structure. So what they've done is they've gone around to the ley lines, which is but for those who don't know what a ley line is, just imagine the longitude and the latitudes of the planet. And there's a web that's like a flower of life web that goes all around the Earth that is the energy grid. It's like the acupuncture grid inside of your body, the energy grid. And that energy grid of the Earth has been co-opted by the groups of people that are involved in stealing energy, whatever their names are, Mm-hmm. And they've found a way to do that. And so what has to happen is that we have to liberate our own energy from that grid. That's why I wrote the book. That's why I called it Emerging from the Matrix. And a good example of it is, you saw the movie The Matrix. Most people have seen it. And Neo, remember when he wakes up in the pod, when they free his mind and he realizes that he's in a pod and that he has all these tubes attached to his back and his neck. And they disconnect him from the pod and he slides down, and then he ends up they have to take him into a healing incubator, which is kind of accurate. They had acupuncture needles on him and everything. Well, when you get disconnected from the matrix, you're going to go through a transformation. And by getting disconnected from the matrix, it means you have to literally liberate your energy from the system of this grid that they've tied into it. When I experienced that, I thought I was going to pass away. I mean, I had a lot of similar things happen, like what you saw with Neo, where he passes out and he has to be given healing treatments, and that's just an example. But when you're going through a realignment of your energy grid You have to be willing to experience the shock of going from one system to another. And of course, we get resistance here on this plane from that. And that's why people need to start meditating and praying, because it's one of the easiest ways to begin to disconnect from the dark grid and connect to the light grid. So that's the first thing they need to do. The second thing they need to do is purify themselves. Now, if you're involved in addictions of any kind, better put it down. If you're involved in binging, eating, or, being really heavy, or pornography, smoking, just activities that are in general negative and addictive, it's time to let them go, because there's going to come a time when those are all going to stop anyway. It's going to be much more shocking to try to move forward into the light if it happens all at once or very suddenly, So what you need to do is to begin a slow process, however pace you can handle, of purifying from addictions, purifying from negative thinking, purifying from fear, purifying from activities that bring you down, and start practicing like selfless service to humanity, selflessness, not being hoarding. Like we have this extreme greed going on right now, Solaris. Oh my God. You can't even imagine what's going on in California with the rents. Have you seen it?
I've heard it from more than one person about the rents just kind of skyrocketing.
Well, I was born and raised here, and I can no longer afford an apartment. Apartments start about $4,000 a month. And jeez. I mean, who can afford that when they've suppressed the wages, they've outsourced the jobs, they've taken away the benefits. There's some jobs, but, not as many as before. And if you're not a computer programmer, it's going to be harder to get a good job good enough to pay rent. So these are some of the ways that they steal our energy, is by high rents and low wages and no benefits.
Right.
And so there's going to need to be a worker uprising where we restore the unions, and we restore the benefits, and we restore the jobs. And, that's one of the things that needs to happen. But here in California, you have to surrender if you've decided to live here, because once you surrender to God and ask for these things to come to you, there's new ways that you're going to get around the survival. It's like I couldn't possibly work enough hours to pay rent in California at this point. I'm not going to charge my students exorbitant amounts of money just so that I can have a really super expensive apartment that isn't even mine, I don't want to contribute to the extreme greed.
Right.
So, those systems need to be broken down, and they are being broken down. There are now groups of people starting communes and biodiversity centers and group communities where they're doing things as a collective. And that's what's going to happen, as a collective mentality. We're seeing the final days of the American empire and the rich white tycoon, That's coming to an end. And you're going to see increasing amounts of collectives rising up.
That's wonderful.
Did I answer your question?
An awful lot. Yes, you did. And what's interesting is that there's so much going on with California. I was curious to see if you actually think it's going to recover, because it seems like it's just out of control. But you get the idea that it is going to reset to some degree.
Well, now we can talk a little bit about politics. I could get really carried away with that. But California is sort of a proving ground. There's a struggle between the dark and the light forces going on here. This is one of the most richest areas in the world. California is number 6 in the world economy. In other words, the state of California alone is the 6th highest economy in the world. We can survive as a country without the rest of the nation. And as a result, there's a war going on for the resources here. And there are a lot of powerful forces moving into the Bay Area where I'm living. And the government, the Hollywood, big business, billionaires, the tech industry, it's all starting to consolidate right here. And so that means that there's a power struggle going on for the positions of power and the resources and the like who's going to be the top dog in all these different areas. So they're all moving here because of the concentration of the tech industry, and which is causing a housing crunch. But at the same time, there are forces of progression and light that are trying to create alternative communities and alternative options, and that they're struggling against the old system of greed and corruption and corporate criminality, political criminality, all that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I see it going back and forth, and I believe that ultimately we are going to prevail against the dark and prevail against the greed. I don't know how long it's going to take. But, some of these things that have been happening, these false flags and things, are designed by old forces that want to maintain control over the resources that they've long had control over. Mm-hmm. And they're feeling the burn of the younger generation coming in, the tech generation, and the rebels coming in to take back their own power. So we're in the midst of a power struggle. It's happening, yes. And it's going to happen everywhere. But I see that this is sort of a testing ground here.
Mm-hmm. That makes perfect sense to me. There's no doubt about it. We're almost out of time here, Salini. I can't get over this, but I want to thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure. And I would like to have you back, not only here, but also on Hyperspace when you get a chance, so we can have a full 2 hours with you, because your work is so significant. What you have to say is so important. It really is. And once again, let everybody know how to reach out to you and contact you, purchase your books and everything.
Okay, you can get Emerging from the Matrix, my book, at Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. My website is emergingfromthematrix.com. My TV show is Heal Yourself Now and Beyond the Matrix at Naturally Better TV. You can look that up. It's an online TV show, and my radio show is on hiatus now, but it's Emerging from the Matrix at intentionradio.com. Get me on Skype, Teri.Apodaca, or Facebook me, Salini Teri Apodaca. I'm really grateful to be here. I send love to everybody in your audience, and forgiveness, love, mercy, compassion. Om Namah Shivaya to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Salini. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. Thank you so much, David Dunger, for setting this up and helping Salini get on air. But once again, stay tuned for Tiny Side Out with David Dunger Becky. Coming up next to sell you on tonight from Down Under, as they do with their awesome show. They're going to have an interview with the creators of Hitler Lives, the movie, coming up on Shiny Side Out. That's going to be great. Everybody, thank you so much. And thank you, David. And thank you, Salini.
You're so welcome. I love you, dear.
Love you, too. Night, everybody.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Most guys freeze. That's your cerebral cortex looking for an answer it doesn't have.
See? Even your brain knows you're screwed.
The body's filling with adrenaline right now, whether you know it or not. The heart's beating fast. It's getting a little harder to breathe. The neurobiological system is telling it to run, but your knees are too weak to move.
Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not ever exist. That is near insanity. But do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. We are all telling ourselves a story.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. 100% listener-supported radio. Reporting to danger. Unafraid. Right here, where information never sleeps. Revolution Radio. data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com.